typically protective provisions capture those decision-making rights we touched on earlier. So one of them is called a majority veto or a super majority veto. And that's where an investor will come in and say, happy for the board to, do what it does, be operational, and shareholders to vote the way that they vote. However, you can only pass a resolution, regardless of the percentage, if I also agree. So typically, when you split decisions up, you'll have simple majority, which is more than 50%, special majority, which is typically more than 75%, or obviously unanimous, which requires 100%. Unanimous we don't see so often because it increases the risk that one person's not going to agree and then you're stuck and you can't progress that decision. So 75% is the typical one we see for these types of rights. And that will say that not only do you need shareholders who hold 75% or 75% of the directors to approve this decision, but I have to be one of those people as the investor. So if you had 80% and I still said no, you wouldn't be able to pass that resolution. You see it a lot in earlier stage investment. And then as the business expands, you start to see it, but it shifts slightly. So it might require both the founder and the investors, so that the investors can't pass it without the founder also agreeing. But it just becomes difficult, and it becomes about managing ego and managing relationships. And sometimes these decisions are not always in the company's best interest. But playing devil's advocate, you can understand why investors try and have these protections in place, because they don't want to give a board, or if they're not on the board, or give founders who typically hold more than 50 and often more than 75% in the early stages. They don't want to give them the power to just pass resolutions without having the investor sign off on it. So in the early stage, I could see the importance of it, but as the business evolves and has proof of concept and starts to show some wins, that's when we see founders negotiating to remove those terms in future rounds, because they say, well, your risk is much lower now because we've proven that we know how to run a business. And so investors can, in those circumstances, be a little bit more open to, dropping off some of those protective rights.